Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Can Rolly Romero conquer the 147-pound division? He's one step close to doing it. He got a few more steps to go, but I'm not ruling him out on getting anything done. A major obstacle has been moved out of his way. That's Jerron Boots Ennis moving up to 154. Rolly Romero being elevated to the WBA full champion now. But I tell you what, man, when it comes to Rolly Romero, it's a tall order. I still think Brian Norman Jr. is the big dog at 147 now. But what I will tell you is this: Rolly Romero has a few things going for him, and that power and confidence is one. You know, he can say whatever he wants. I don't even think he really. I think he felt he could compete with Ryan because of the sparring, but I think even he was a little bit like, man, if this guy hits me, you know, I'm in trouble. But man, he did show some growth the way he kept that right hand up to the side of his face to protect that chin against the Ryan Garcia left hook. So the one thing I'll say is he's getting better. He's getting better, man. You got to give him credit. But the question is can he go and conquer 147 pounds? And I'm not going to say he can't. I'm not going to say he can. What I'm going to do is have a dialogue about it, because the power and confidence that he has is unmatched. You know what I'm saying? He's explosive as hell. He's unafraid to take risks that makes him dangerous. In addition, any and everyone, when they talk about Rolly, they all say that Rolly Romero hits hard. Everybody says it. And I'm going to tell you, when you got a guy who hits hard and can end the fight at any time, that makes people who haven't fought him, makes them have a little bit of self-doubt. It's like, shit, man, if I go in here and he hits like that, you know, I don't want to get hit with that. They probably can't even fight their own fight unless they really see, you know, some opportunities. In addition to that, you know, he was very unorthodox when he was with Bullet. You know, Salas has managed to kind of make some tweaks, kind of, you know, streamline Rolly's style a little bit. But the bottom line is he's got that power, he's got the confidence, and he's unorthodox. You know, he has like an awkward rhythm. His timing is weird as well. He's unpredictable. And as a result, it throws off, you know, fighters. And I don't care how polished the fighter is. You get in there with Rolly, you got to figure out your timing. You got to figure things out. Sometimes it takes a few rounds. And by then, it could be too late. It could be disastrous because Rolly could clip you. And I just think with the momentum that he has going, look, that went over Ryan Garcia. That shit wasn't hype. That wasn't hype. You know, Rolly did that. He earned that victory. He earned the position he's in right now. You know, is a little bit of the secret society putting him in certain positions? You know, maybe. But he had to get in there and do the business. Same way he got in there and got the wins that he was able to ascertain. The same way he got those losses. Okay? But I do think with Rolly, I do think that the weight cuts were affecting him. You know what I'm saying? But he can't make no excuse now at 147. But I do think 135, 140. When I listen to these guys, and when you look at them when they move up one or two weight classes, you're looking at them thinking they can still afford to put on another 20 pounds. It's like, you know, how are they getting down to those 130, 135, 140 pound weight limits? But anyway, for Rolly, the weight isn't something he's up against anymore. He seems to be comfortable. But I tell you, he's up against elite competition now at 147, man. Look, the welterweight division is stacked. You know, Boots Ennis is gone now, but, you know, I don't think he's coming back. Terrence Crawford's gone now. I don't think he's coming back. Virgil Ortiz is another one who's gone now. I can't see him coming back. But could you imagine if someone decided to return to 147? Rolly would be up shit creek without a paddle. But still, you got Brian Norman Jr., you got Barrios there, you got Bootsy up there. You got a Manchester Standing Unis, man. You got what's his name, my boy, Kavaliauskas. They got a lot of guys at 147 that can make things really hard for Rolly Romero. But although he's had his ups and downs, man, to dominate this division, he's going to have to be sharp like he was against Ryan Garcia. That means he's going to have to show up every single time now. Like, Rolly Romero can't afford to just come in the ring and say something hurt or I wasn't feeling good and expect fans to accept that as an excuse. We can buy into the being weight drained. I think we all think that's a fair alibi because you can tell these guys, you look at them now again, after they put on 15 pounds in a fight, and they still are like they can lose weight. But what I'm going to tell you, man, he's got to be smart with the fight that he's picking. And he's got to pick the right fights, especially him as a champion, man. You know, he's a player at 147, but he could definitely become a major player, you know what I'm saying? Taking over the whole division right now, it may be a little bit of a stretch, but if he stays disciplined with the right fights, that shit could evolve real quick. Rolly Romero could be the top dog at 147-pound division. But the thing is this. If Rolly gets past, let's say he gets the Pacquiao fight, right? If Pacquiao beats Barrios, Rolly fights Pacquiao and beats Pacquiao. Okay, whatever. The one guy at that division who's going to be a problem for everybody, especially Rolly, is Brian Norman Jr., man. Brian Norman Jr. is a very sharp. He can be a high-volume puncher, man. Super solid fundamentals, and his defense is underrated. I think his power is underrated as well. Him having that WBO belt could be something to motivate Rolly Romero to try to go and unify the division. But let me tell you something. Brian Norman Jr. is about to fight Jin Sasaki in Japan. I think he's going to knock him out, right? But the fight for me that sold me on Brian Norman Jr. was when he faced Santion. When he got in there, man, against Giovanni Santion, I had just watched Santion damn near kill Alexis Rocha. And I was like, there's no one at 147 going to beat this guy. I never seen anything like that. Brian Norman Jr. got in there, took him a few rounds. He stayed calm, stayed composed, touching up Santion here, touching up Santion there, and eventually broke him down. Now, I speak highly of Zepeda because Zepeda is another one of those fighters who was fighting like Santion. But Brian Norman Jr. showed me that he has a chin, so he's durable, he has grit, and he has power, and he has sound fundamentals. So for Shakur Stevenson fighting Zepeda, that's why I'm not picking Shakur to win. I don't think he has those intangibles like Brian Norman Jr. to really slow down a tornado like a Zepeda. But that being said, Brian Norman Jr. showed me that there's something special about him. And as a result, with Brian Norman Jr. being more technically sound, with a better punch selection and a ring IQ, I think if he stays composed, Rolly Romero could see himself getting picked apart over 12 rounds and possibly stop down the stretch. But again, Rolly, with that awkward rhythm and power, man, it makes him very dangerous, you know, throughout the whole fight, especially early, man. Now, if he can disrupt Brian Norman Jr.'s rhythm, Rolly's going to have something. He'll probably get the win. But if he can't land something big early, I'm just telling you, man, Norman's volume and precision, that's just going to take over the fight. And it's a fight, when you look at it on paper, it's kind of hard to go with Rolly. It favors Brian Norman Jr. on paper. But the chaos factor of Rolly will always make things interesting. That's what I'm saying, man. Anything can happen now that Rolly Romero is in the mix because he brings chaos. You know what I'm saying? And I think, you know, like for Floyd Mayweather, his jab, his right hand was his currency. Larry Holmes' jab was his currency. Mike Tyson, I would say that right hook to the body, uppercut, left hook to the body, uppercut was his currency. Some fighters have a shot, have a punch, or have a fighting style that you could say is their currency. For Rolly Romero, man, look, chaos is his currency, man. He looks the best when there's chaos in the ring. He don't really look the best when everything is calm, cool, and collective. So Rolly needs that chaos, man, because he ain't going to outbox Brian Norman Jr. He's not going to out-discipline Mario Barrios, and he sure as hell ain't going to outthink a Manny Pacquiao. But if he could turn the fight into something messy, to something chaotic, an uncomfortable brawl, full of awkward timing, wild exchanges, and unexpected punches, you know, Rolly Romero can thrive and can shock the boxing world. He's done this shit before. So, you know, with him only getting better with this, like, controlled chaos, But I think he's going to have to make it uncontrollable at times to get a win over like a Barrios or Norman Jr. and a Manny Pacquiao. But chaos could play to Rolly Romero's favor. You know what I'm saying? It really can. You know, a lot of fighters who just seem to do a lot better when shit is going crazy in the ring. Ricardo Mayorga was one, Provodnikov was one, and currently Derek Chisora is another one. The more crazy it is, the better for them. But Brian Norman Jr., this is where Brian Norman Jr. can have a little bit of an issue if Rolly brings that chaos, man. You know, he can be a bit too composed and a little bit too technical at times, which could give Rolly Romero an opportunity to land something. There's a lot of fighters that have to be in a rhythm. You know, feints. You know, Rolly would have to use feints to break up that rhythm. We had to throw some wild power shots. He may have to bring back a little bit of what Coach Bullitt created. And then you're going to have to see the clinching from Rolly Romero. One thing about Rolly, he would clinch, he would twist you, he would throw you off balance, he would hit on the clinch, coming out the clinch. Rolly would do a lot of stuff, and he has those super, super heavy hands. But in doing so, he was able to make the fight ugly, but it would play to his advantage into his favor. So he would definitely have to do that to Brian Norman Jr. Now, Barrios, you know, again, we don't know who's going to win, Barrios or Pacquiao. I'm picking Barrios, but tall, smooth, very textbook. Rolly can't afford to be on the end of none of Mario Barrios' punches. But if he can get close and kind of smother him a bit and Rolly do the work that we've seen him do when he's in close and make it physical and throw those short, choppy hooks, overhand rights, and just make it really, really chaotic, Rolly has a good chance, you know what I'm saying? Them looping shots that Rolly throws, man, those shots are damaging. And it could prevent Mario Barrios from trying to set up anything, especially traps. And we could see Rolly knock out Barrios. And then Manny Pacquiao, look, man, I just got to be honest with you. Like, Brian Norman Jr. is really an amazing fighter that would just be a tall order for Rolly Romero to clip. Even an old Manny Pacquiao, you just got to understand the footwork and volume of punches from Manny Pacquiao are dangerous for anyone. And we're going to see that when he faces Barrios, just how dangerous even a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao is. But I just think Rolly would just have to try to find a way to slow that pace down. I mean, Ugas was able to do it with the jab in the right hand. Rolly's going to have to figure it out, rough up Manny Pacquiao, make him feel his age, and land something crazy. Because if he doesn't, Manny Pacquiao is one of those guys. Once he hurts you and he gets that rhythm going, you know, Manny Pacquiao, he's going to build on that momentum, and he will probably stop Rolly Romero. But in all three cases, for Rolly Romero, now this is just my opinion, I don't think Rolly wins a clean fight against Pacquiao. I don't think he wins a clean fight against Barrios. I don't think he wins a clean fight against Brian Norman Jr. I just can't see Rolly Romero in the ring floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. No, he may have to bite somebody. You know what I'm saying? Chaos is what he's going to need to conquer 147 pounds. But if he can create enough confusion, you know, putting that pressure at weird angles on them opponents, man, dragging them into exchanges they don't maybe want to be in, shit they didn't plan for, that's where Rolly Romero is going to be just fine. And that chaos. But we just have to see what happens going forward, man, because I'm not saying he's exactly like Ricardo Mayorga, but there's some similarities there, you know what I'm saying? But the one thing Rolly has is what most fighters talk about. When you have power, you okay? Okay. When a fighter has power, that is the equalizer. And they also say speed kills. Okay? So he has the ability to kill and equalize his opponents because he does have speed and he has power. So Rolly Romero is and he has chaos. So Rolly Romero is a very dangerous fighter. And he's not just relying now on raw talent. You know, I like the way post-bullet he's sharpened his skills, and you can see that he's only going to get better and become a real problem. You know, I think people need to pay more attention to Rolly Romero, man. You know, there's something going on with Rolly, even his growth and his maturity, even during his interviews, man. It's like Salas has found a way to polish the chaos and make Rolly even more unpredictable because you just don't know what you're getting now. No one knows what Rolly Romero's coming into the ring. Before they thought they did, but now they don't. But anyway, Let's see if he continues to add the smart pressure, man, and embrace the brawler, mental chaos type style of fighting. Because I just think if he can get in the ring with whoever he's fighting next and have a big upset like or performance like he did Ryan and catching guys in between transitions, I think Rolly's going to have a lot of success. But the ultimate hit list for me, when you look at Rolly Romero, this is what I think he should do. At 147, let me look at some of the names here. So I think Barrios would be a good opponent. He's polished, but he's hittable. You know what I'm saying? Rolly can crowd him and land big looping shots because Barrios is tall and tends to fight tall from time to time. So Rolly could definitely have some success there. I think Stanley Unis is another one who's looking for the mashup, crash up right there in front of Rolly. I think Rolly Romero can really break down the toughness and deflate that pressure that Stanley Unis tries to build round after round. And I think Rolly could possibly stop Stanley Unis if he doesn't let Stanley Unis get to him, and for Stanley Unis to really get that left hook, left jab and left hook going. And then after that, I would say Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman Rolly would be the only, outside of Pacquiao, Rolly Romero would be the only other fighter to have the Keith Thurman feather in his cap. Spence doesn't have it. Crawford doesn't have it. And everyone else who fought him outside of Pacquiao, they lost. So Rolly fought Keith Thurman. That would be a huge feather in his cap, even though Keith Thurman, isn't really that active as a fighter. Now, if he can get past a Barrios or Pacquiao, Stanley Unis, and a Thurman, but now you're talking about, hey, he just went out there and cashed out. He got a gold mine, struck gold. Now it's about getting into a firefight or going to a funeral. Because now you're talking about, okay, you cleared that first level of fighters. Now you up trying to fight a guy like Brian Norman Jr., Radsat Butayev, you know what I'm saying? And they heard that guy's name who keeps coming up, Cody Crowley, but I don't know what happened to him. But I think those would be a few really good fights for him, man. But I just think Brian Norman Jr. could bring it all to an end with the quickness. Because Brian Norman Jr. can fight. I don't know why people don't give Brian Norman Jr. the credit he deserves. Brian Norman Jr. is a problem. But let's say he gets past a Norman Jr., a Butayev and shit. Now he goes on and he fights maybe Jerome Boots-Ennis. Maybe he fights a Crawford. Maybe he fights a Pacquiao, depending on what happened with Pacquiao and Barrios. But I just think the power of Boots, the speed and movement, I think Rolly would have to start fast. And I think the only way Rolly wins that is if he trades. He'd have to trade and try to land something. Hope he can land something. If not, I think he loses. Terrence Crawford, man, genius, IQ, power, patience. I mean, Crawford should dismantle Rolly, but again, he just got to go Ricardo Mayorga on him, bring the chaos to Terrence Crawford, and just create complete disorder in that goddamn ring. That's the only way he's going to do it. Because if he lands, he'll hurt Crawford. But I just think Crawford will just, annihilate him. But it's really, for me, Rolly Romero just really not forgetting his true identity. His true identity is not being a boxer that floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. He's the kid who jumps off the short yellow bus, people are making fun of, and he just goes buck wild. He starts swinging his buck bag, takes his little apple juice or orange juice, squeezes it in your eye, bites somebody, runs, kicks the neighbor dog, and then goes home crying, telling parents that he was bullied. He's got to bring that kind of shit. Because his identity, man, is not to be a conventional boxer. Even though he's polishing up an unpredictable, uncontrollable style. But let's just wait and see how it goes with Rolly Romero. I think he could seriously shake things up. In addition, I know he's not going to out-fence anybody because that's not his style of fighting. But he will definitely out-brawl him. And that's what he has to make all these fights into. A controlled chaos, polished madness. You know what I'm saying? It's a disorder in the ring. He's got to do it. And if Rolly can do that, Rolly could shock everybody and get wins over some huge names, become unified. He fuck around and become undisputed at 147. When you look at it, it's really, where is it? Let me see. Let's look at it together. At 147, so you got Brian Norman Jr., Jerron and so the IBF is vacant. Patty Donovan and Lewis Crocker are going to fight for that. So it'll be one of them. Barrios fighting Pacquiao. Then Rolly is now elevated to the WBA Super World Welterweight Champion. So Rolly could either fight Barrios, maybe the IBF, whoever becomes the IBF champion. Brian Norman Jr. and Rolly can fight. Rolly's in a good spot. So he's got winner of Barrios Pacquiao. You got Brian Norman Jr., the winner of Brian Norman Jr. Sasaki. And then he's got the Lewis Crocker, Patty Donovan. Rolly's in a good spot. Don't be surprised if Rolly Romero messes around and at least becomes unified. Don't be surprised. Anyway, y'all keep cool. It's amazing how all that comes full circle. Rolly Romero was the laughing stock of boxing. Nobody took that man serious. And now look at everybody. T.O. looks crazy. Devin looks crazy. Ryan looks crazy. Gervonta Davis looking crazy. Everybody looking fucking crazy right now. The Boots looks, he's not bad. He moved up to 154. People, we understand. But out of all those other names, everybody looking crazy. Izak Pitbull Cruz looking crazy. Everybody looking crazy. Rolly the only one that really is looking like, this guy has pulled it together. He didn't unravel when he could have. He kept it together, and look where he's at now. Anyway, the question is, can Chaos conquer 147? I think so. Rolly's hit list, it begins. And let's see what he can get done. Keep cool, I'm in the breeze.